Hey everyone, welcome back to the Health Bridge. Dr. Pedram Shojai here with Dr. Sara Gottfried.
Hi everybody.
Nice to see you, Sara.
Hey, nice to see you, Pedram. You look so happy. You're just back from vacation.
Oh man, it was good. I forgot. You take Hawaii for granted when you live on the West Coast. You're like, oh, well, that's just so here. I'm gonna go somewhere far and exotic. And it turns out when you're married and you have a kid, Hawaii is perfect. Oh man, it was just exactly what I need. We didn't even leave the hotel except for the wedding.
Well, that's what I want to talk about today, Pedram. I feel like we're in vacation season. I really want to understand what makes a fabulous vacation.
Yes, perfect. I think that a lot of people don't know how to vacation, and so they go on these trips and then they come back maybe with a tan, but not necessarily relaxed and rejuvenated. And they just spent 5-10 grand or whatever they did going to some place for some intended result that they didn't get. And what a tragedy that is.
It's a tragedy, and I would say guilty as charged. I've had so many of those trips. I think part of it for me is that I used to take some of the ways that I'd vacation in my 20s and I tried to apply them to my 30s and 40s and it just didn't work. So I want to talk about that.
Yeah, let's get into it because I'm actually I'm kind of a pain in the ass to vacation with because it's when I become incredibly selfish, right? Oh. It's like I am here for what I need to get out of these 4 days, 5 days, 2 weeks, whatever it is that I've allotted. I need to get what I need to get out of this because I got to go back to the life that I live that is very busy. And so, no, I don't want to go see that stupid thing. I just want to sit here and read this book or take a nap.
Yeah, nice. Well, it also reminds me of this gong that we're about to do because what you just described as being super intentional about the way that you architect a vacation so that you're not running around like you're on a hamster wheel, which is what we're trying to get away from, right? I mean, that's kind of the feeling in your work life. So we want to get away from that.
Yeah. It's just, kind of like the environmental design that Abel talked about when we had him on the show is the same thing that you do with life design, right? Like, okay, what are my goals for this vacation? I want to sleep more, I want to rest, and I want to get some quality time with honey. Great. So does renting a car and driving for 6 hours around the island of Maui fulfill that goal or not? And why do we feel obligated to do it if that is not part of our plan?
Nice. So I'm going to actually call that tip number 1 because I think you just laid out the plan for resetting your circadian rhythm. And I would say that's one of the most important goals when you go on vacation. We tend to have this deadline-driven work life where we push. I've got a deadline in 2 days where my book is due. And what happens is you tend to cut back on the sleep, you're drinking coffee, you're borrowing from tomorrow. And so we want to change all that on vacation. So I think that circadian hygiene is really crucial.
I like that. Circadian hygiene. So now you're getting me into the sexy librarian thought process.
Actually,
here.
I stole that from Alan Christensen. Let's give a shout out to Dr. Alan Christensen, who's also helping us with our gong.
That's right. And we'll talk about that a little later because I've never given so much spit before in my life. We've done a bunch of labs now. So Dr. Alan Christensen, Dr. Tom O'Brien, a few of our illustrious friends are going to publicly doctor us because we're going to co-doctor ourselves. How about that? And basically go through this challenge to show you guys, how, we're not taking any miracle drugs or pills, and we're going to do it the way we ask our patients to do it, and we're going to show you how it's done, being the examples.
I like that. We're going to get publicly doctored. I think that's kind of a challenge to throw down. I like it a lot. So I want to come back to this vacation idea because, Pedram, I'm about to go on vacation here in a short while, and I've had so many trips where it takes me like 3-4 days to actually get into the vacation mindset, and by the time I've arrived, I have to leave in 2 days. So I think it's such a service to our listeners to really talk this through. And I also wanted to say, as we kind of get into this whole vacation architecture, that if you're living the kind of life where you're just basically surviving from one vacation to the next, that's a problem too. Like, there's a limit to how much vacation can fill your tank.
Yeah, if you're self-medicating with vacation, then maybe the way you're running your life is a little too aggressive. And, some of us have a lot going on in circumstances, and, I'm not going to, proclaim that I know how to live life better than anyone else, because people's circumstances are nuts sometimes, and like they really have, a husband in a wheelchair and 4 kids and whatever it is. But if you're going on like pearls on a string from vacation to vacation, I agree, man. That's A, it's no way to live, and B, you're actually not rejuvenating as well. It's kind of like running a marathon by sprinting and then stopping and like holding your side and panting and then sprinting again instead of just getting a steady clip.
Okay, I want the steady clip for sure. And then you also made this point about connecting with honey. I think that's a yummy one to bring in. I have to say, you were with us recently. You were with my husband and me, and there's just something about, the aggro way that we live where we don't have enough couple time. Like, we don't connect enough. We're a little low in terms of that dose. And so I think that's another crucial piece to bring in, is that, tapping back into why you fell in love in the first place, right?
Absolutely. And, my wife and I are so good on vacation together, and we remember it within a first day or so of vacationing. And it's because, we have a strict no technology rule. Like, I had to check on a couple things for work here and there, but it's like, you're not Facebooking all the time. You're not on, that's the thing about being in Hawaii, is like your text messages work, everything works. And so sometimes it's better for it not to work for people who can't unplug, right? But, if it's just you and your honey having time to just unwind, it's amazing how fun life can be, because, well, again, life is about doing, right? In our society, we're constantly doing, we're constantly hustling. You get up and you chase it all day, and you don't have enough time to sit with your loved one to just appreciate that space and just kind of bask in each other's light. And so if you can't do that on vacation, then you're coming back from vacation and having marriage counseling, because there's all these things that need some decompression space, and your relationship is definitely one of them, I think.
I agree with you. Now, that being said, I sometimes think about vacations with my husband as a different beast than vacations with my children. Now, you just had your first vacation with your kid. Tell us about that.
It was amazing, because Elmira, my wife's name is Elmira. She has had the distinct privilege of being able to be home and spend a lot of quality time with the kid. And, I'd come and be like, oh, there he is, here's Daddy. And I'd kind of bop him around and do, my thing, and then he'd fall asleep. And he's just a baby, right? And this was like this concentrated period of time where I just got to hang with him and be like, honey, I got him, you go sleep. And I'd take him in the ocean, I'd take him for a walk, I'd let her catch up on some sleep. I bonded with my son, and it was so super important. And I just had a moment actually yesterday when I came back that I think is pretty relevant for this, is we made a new deal, and I could talk about like our new deal later. Like, so on the vacation, we kind of renegotiated how to live together healthfully with the child in a better way, because she's now back at work as well. And I was sitting there saying, okay, well, Nanny will be here in half an hour. I'm holding the kid, and she had to leave early. And so I'm with the kid, and then my phone does this thing, and I'm off vacation now, right? Like, I'm back, and I'm kind of in my world. And so I look over at the phone, and the kid was playing with me and interacting, right? And now I'm like in my universe over here, and he's starting to get fussy. And I turn to him, I'm like bopping him around a little bit, like, hey, stop being fussy, And I realized that he was being fussy because I disengaged. And I caught myself and put my phone down and said, absolutely not. I'm not going to be that father. And I gave him my undivided attention until, the nanny came, and then I kind of, was able to transition into work mode. But like, if you can't engage with your kids are going to have problems. And if you can't engage with your kids on a holiday, you're in trouble, right? So I think it's absolutely critical to touch in with both family, on the spouse side, or whoever you're with, really. Whoever you're with needs to be connected with you.
Oh, this is juicy. This is really good stuff. I feel like even when your son is a few months old, he can sense when your attention is divided and call you on it. And so you can see your kid as being this sacred mirror that's kind of like, hey, dude, you're focusing on work and not on me. I should be your priority. And of course, that goes through all the ages. I can tell you my 14-year-old articulated to me, hey mom, I'm so sick of hearing about your book. Like, I don't care if it's a New York Times bestseller. Like, can you please like go with me to the mall and can we go do some shopping? And I think it's so helpful when our kids give us that reminder, when they get a little fussy like your son did, or my daughter articulates this, I don't really care about your work emotion.
I love that, because that's an alarm call, right? And if we listen to it, then it kind of recalibrates us as parents. But when we don't listen to it, that's when they get caught on the street corner smoking a cigarette and disregarding anything you have to say, because they're now cutting away. They're losing respect for you because you're disengaged. And I think that is a huge part that we need to look at as parents, and like for healthy parenting, is the kid is telling you and you're not listening. It's the same thing with the body. It's like, oh, I just, I don't know, my stomach hurts. It's like, yeah, your stomach's telling you that something you ate in the last few hours, it doesn't like. And are you going to disregard it and take some Tums, or are you going to listen to it? Right? It all just, it's kind of as above, so below. It's all kind of a reflection of the same.
As above, so below. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, it's also dark circles under your eyes, right? Food intolerance, that's another message. I just totally busted you. And, I think it's interesting to me with the kid thing, because I was going to ask you about your morning rituals and if they're the same when you go on vacation versus when you're at home. And as you were talking about this, about your son, and I'm talking about my older daughter, I was thinking about how one thing I could do differently on this upcoming vacation, instead of just doing my usual meditation, which I do in the morning, which is, a lot about quieting my mind and kind of listening to my inner voice, I could actually connect to my family more with that meditation. And I'm thinking in particular about one that I learned from a psychologist, where you do figure of eights. You do it with your breath, you do it with a visualization where you're wrapping energetically with the figure of eight yourself and this loved one. Maybe it's your husband, maybe it's your 14-year-old daughter, maybe it's your son.
I like that. I like that a lot. I'm actually going to tell a quick story that is not me, but it's a story that inspired me, and I think it can kind of help us jump into how to vacation better for all of us. There's a Taoist master who is up in Northern California, up in Santa Cruz, your area actually, Charles Bellyeya, who was the head of the acupuncture school up there. And he wrote in his book a piece that always stuck with me, because he is a white dude, right, who lived a white dude life and then kind of found spirituality later on. And so he was really busy, and then he found Taoism, and it really, helped him. So he became, and like he did stuff where he was just tired. And so when he went on sabbatical, I think and don't quote me exactly because it's been a while since I've read this book, but I took sabbatical for 2 years in the Amazon. And his entire covenant with himself was only do that which feels natural. Right? And so he shows up, he finally finds a place he wants to chill, and he's like, all right, great, this is home. What do I feel like doing? It's like, I'm tired. So he takes a nap. Gets up, kind of cruises around a little bit. What do I feel like doing? Yeah, I'm tired. Takes a nap. This goes on for 3 weeks until he's finally like questioning himself, right? He's just like, oh my God, all I'm doing is sleeping. Did I get the instructions wrong? What's wrong with me? And then one day, 3 weeks later, he wakes up and he's just like, I feel great. And he realized it took him 3 weeks to pay off the sleep debt and the energy debt that we have amassed living modern lifestyles. And so the moral of the story is, give yourself permission to chill out. Like, my entire deal with myself on my holidays is, dude, do only what feels natural, because you force yourself into timelines and blocks of commitments all week, every week. And so on holidays and weekends, it's about unwinding and not having plans, not having things kind of like jamming your schedule.
Okay, I'm trying to disagree with you, but that one I have to agree with, because, as I started to think of some of the things that are helpful to me, I was also thinking, well, these may work for me, they may not work for the next person, but this principle is at a higher level. Do what feels natural. I feel like that, you can interpret that in so many different ways. for me, going on vacation, it's about unstructured time. Like I love to have a schedule that's just wide open so I can do whatever I want and really listen to my natural rhythms and what feels natural. But I can tell you, I'm going to Idaho next week with my husband, and he has packed his days. He wants to go river rafting. He's
that guy.
He's like Mr. Young, right? So he's going to go fly fishing. He's got like 4 horseback riding lessons that he's doing. So, and that's not my thing. So I think this principle of doing what feels natural is a really good one.
Yeah, I like that. And you know what? Let's go back to your point of different strokes for different folks, right? Your husband needs to relax while doing something. That's just the kind of guy he is, right?
True.
He will plug into something which will kind of like take over his operating system so that in the undercurrent he can relax. That's why he can stand in a river for a day and pull fish out, right? I get that. I totally get that. Guys typically tend to be that way a little bit more, right? I'm kind of an oddball type of guy where I'm happy to take a nap and sit in a hammock and read or not read. But one of the things that I think is very valuable for relationships is understanding that and pre-negotiating your vacation so that you go, okay, you need this, David. Have fun. You have my undying love and support. Go out there and get it, cowboy. And I'm going to be over here doing my thing. And let's just have this culture of mutual respect. And I'll see you for dinner. Because we both need to get our vacations out. And I have so many patients that like drag each other into stuff because they feel like that's what couples should do. And I just think that's idiotic.
It is idiotic. And, a lot of time and money is spent doing the wrong thing. And what you remind me of is this awesome teeny little book by Gary Chapman on the 5 love languages. And this idea that, if you look at the top 5 love languages, it tends to be that your love language is completely different than the love language of your partner. So, my husband really loves to be touched. He really loves to have quality time, like time spent in lingering conversation that has no ending. Like that's super yummy to him. Whereas I like acts of service and I like words of affirmation. And so, we have to realize that you don't want to just speak to your partner in your own love language. And that applies to vacation as well. You want to make sure that you are speaking in their love language. Like that's a really important way to reconnect.
Yeah, and I think that we, as a culture, have just kind of gotten off message with that. And, it's like, well, the kids got to do this with us because we need quality time with the kids. It's like, oh, no, let the kids do their thing and then hang out with them. Let your spouse do their thing and then hang out with them. But I really love that love language comment. I'd like to maybe... first of all, I'll read it because it's interesting to me, and secondly, maybe we can post kind of a resource for that for our listeners, because a lot of what we're talking about here is decompression rituals, and no one has really been trained in the art of decompression. I mean, I'm a meditator, you're a yogi, you and I spent a lot of time learning how to unplug. But and we apply those things on our vacations so that we can come back and have some sanity because Lord knows we're busy, right? And people who don't have that, I'm now realizing are the ones that are suffering from a lot of this adrenal fatigue and stuff, because when you stop, this happened to me in the Himalayas actually. I was arrogant enough to try to race someone up a hill at 18,000 feet. And I got to the point where I had to stop because I couldn't breathe and I couldn't catch my breath. And I started to panic because I was like hyperventilating, and it took me a good minute to catch my breath at that altitude. And that I remember that because I feel like a lot of people live that way. They can't catch their breath in life. And it's terrifying because you don't know where you're going to be able to get the energy. You don't know where you're going to be able to find the sanity and the peace because you've never unwound enough to feel like you're okay.
Yeah, this is really good. This is really good. And I also, I would add to that, you and I have really devoted our lives to learning how to hit the pause button and really connect to this inner self, higher self, whatever you want to call it. And I like that analogy of not being able to catch your breath, because I think so many people feel that way. I mean, that's a classic symptom of anxiety or overwhelm. There's also a piece here of what I want to call more explicitly self-connection. And really, being able to go on vacation in an authentic way, so that you're not, applying someone else's rules of what the vacation needs to look like. I used to have this rule that I needed to go on vacation with my kids and go on the roller coasters and spend this time with them, when I realized, oh my gosh, I am so raw and throttled by the way that I live my life. I need to change the way I live my life. And I can tell you, going on a vacation and sending my adrenaline through the roof by going on a roller coaster, that is not the answer. So there's this self-connection piece that I think is so important.
I love that. I think that, so guys, we're actually going to take the month of July off from our live shows, just because we both got a lot going on, and we're going to kind of reset, rejuvenate, and recalibrate for you guys, because for us to be of service means for us to serve ourselves and take care of ourselves, and that's a powerful lesson in life. And so as we vacation, we'd love for you guys, Sarah's going to get you the sexy librarian in a second here, to really kind of pay attention to how it is that you rest, how it is that you set up your recovery cycles, and how can you set that up? How can you set the table for it to serve you better? And we will share with you what we did over July when we're going to be back in August. We might put up some bonus stuff, so look for it through the month of July. But Lorenzo's going to go hang out and see his family, and our whole team is needing a break, and that's what life is about, right? Learn from the Europeans. So Sarah, what do we talk about today? You got the points there.
Yeah, I like this. And I also want to just give a shout out to go to healthbridgeshow.com. We've got a lot of resources there. Even while we go on vacation and kind of set up the next season of our radio show, we want to hear from you. We want you to sign up and get our updates. Those will still be happening while we're off on vacation. So I love this word that you used of covenant. So I want to come back to kind of the vacation covenant for today. And, how do you really set up those recovery cycles? You talked about it in the context of our gong that we're going to do, our 100-day gong, but I think it's important with vacation as well. So here's what we've got. Number one, circadian hygiene, really catching up on that sleep debt, getting the rest that you need, even if it takes, way longer than you think it should. Number two, I really like this piece of no technology. You talked about that when you went to Hawaii, the digital detox. I think that's crucial, especially when you're connecting with the people you love. Number three, we talked about morning rituals, and you were, for those who are listening to the audio, Pedram was nodding vigorously when I asked about him doing the same morning rituals. Now, we differ on that point, because I made this point that I'm going to do these figure of 8 rituals in the morning where I visualize connecting with my daughters and with my husband, and it's not just about me when I do a meditation. Number 4, I'm just going to call him Charlie the Taoist dude. I forgot his last name already, but you talked about him going on sabbatical for 2 years in the Amazon and only do what feels natural. I really like that. And in his case, he slept for 3 weeks before he had the energy to kind of take on something bigger. And then number 5, I brought up this point of the love languages. And I like the idea of talking about this more in the next season. How do you connect with your family and with friends in the language that is their love language, not necessarily your love language? So we'll get into more detail about that in our next season.
Love it. One caveat. The reason I was nodding was because when I'm on a gong, deal's a deal. When I'm off a gong, I do whatever I want. So right now, I'm about to start a new gong, so I just slept in and relaxed and really didn't have any plans for anything. When we are on a gong, you got to do what you've agreed to do. And so just know that as you look at the vacation time and plan accordingly, because I literally, last time I was in Hawaii was when I finished a gong, and a very challenging one. And so here I am doing my qigong on the beach while everyone's running around, but a deal was a deal. So there's a lot we can get into. We're going to talk about the gongs in the next season. Sarah and I are going to start one. If you don't know what it is, go to healthbridgeshow.com. We're going to have a bunch of resources there to show you guys what it is we're doing, and we're going to invite you to join us. But for now, we're going to sign off, and she's going to go enjoy a vacation. I'm going to go bask in the one that I just have profited from. And we will see you guys again live in August. But, just keep checking. Your phone should download some cool stuff that we'll load up through July, and go to healthbridgeshow.com for all kinds of tools that we're loading for you, so you get some candy while we're gone.
Yeah, that's not literal candy. That's figurative candy, everybody. So yeah, happy July. We will see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.